So today we're stepping into premium motorcycle commuting again. The R12 NineT is a retro cruiser, and in theory that should actually make it pretty well suited for the daily grind. And of course, if you've convinced yourself that the most appropriate tool for your daily commute is a characterful boxer twin, then the R12 NineT should probably be at the top of that small and possibly delusional list. But as a pure city bike, is this thing really actually worth it? Or is it just another overpriced, overweight, and ill-suited motorcycle for the real world? Let's find out. As usual, let's start with the important numbers. The engine is an 1170cc air-cooled boxer twin. Seat height is 795 millimeters. Wet weight is 220 kilograms. Power is a shade under 110 horsepower and comes in at 7,000 RPM. Torque is 115 Newton meters at 6,500 RPM. Fuel tank is 16 liters, and the bike can be yours for $65,800 on the road. So yes, like I said, premium commuting. The bike comes with fully adjustable suspension front and rear, and that same iconic air and oil cooled boxer engine. This engine has its roots in the legendary HP2 Sport that was first shown in 2007, but essentially it's the old R1200 GS engine before the GS went liquid cooled in 2013. The bike itself is simple, minimalist, and genuinely gorgeous to look at. It looks like the old R90, and that's purely intentional, of course. BMW knows they've nailed the design and the formula, so they didn't mess with the looks too much. But under the surface, however, there's actually very little that's interchangeable between this bike and the earlier R90, especially in terms of the chassis. But overall build quality is, as you'd expect, excellent. The fit and finish is incredible everywhere you look. Even the bolts look expensive. And here's where you start to appreciate that boxer layout and platform. For a 1200cc bike, this thing is ridiculously easy to push around. The weight sits low, the balance feels natural, and you never ever feel like it's trying to tip over or run away from you. And that seat height, it's just 795 millimeters, means that I can actually flat foot both feet with confidence. Of course, this makes a huge difference in car parks and on awkward slopes. You don't need to think twice about where you're going to stop or how you should park the bike. Honestly, it feels more like 200 kilos than 220 kilos. So even without the engine running, the R12 NineT already feels friendly and easy to get on with. Once you fire it up, it's immediately full of character. That familiar boxer sway, that low-speed rumble, unmistakably BMW. At walking pace, the bike is smooth and composed, one of those rare big bikes that doesn't intimidate you the moment it starts rolling. And once you're moving, it carries that same planted, easygoing feel right into traffic. Ergonomically, it's also near perfect. There's a slight forward lean. It's not too aggressive, but the riding posture is definitely not upright. I'd say you'd sit on it like a naked sport bike, but with more friendlier footpeg placement. The bars are quite wide though, and this puts the rider in that Street Fighter-like purposeful posture. It's comfortable, but it's not relaxed. For weekend rides or touring, it's brilliant. But for daily commutes, it can be a bit high-strung, not wrist-heavy, just always on, always alert. The passenger seat is small, doable, but your pillion will quickly learn what minimalism means. The suspension is excellent, plush yet nicely controlled. It handles rough roads with real finesse. And I like how the rear preload adjuster is positioned. You can reach it quite easily and make quick adjustments without getting off the bike. Heat management is also surprisingly good. Even stuck at lights, the box's warmth is barely noticeable. And the fueling? Mostly spot on. Though I'll admit I stalled it once or twice, possibly even 3 times. Either this bike likes a bit more throttle off the line, or this demo unit could use a TPS reset. Either way, no big deal, it's still super manageable at low speed. Of course, it's shaft driven, which means it's maintenance free, which is a bonus in itself. But if you're crawling through traffic, you do start notice a little bit of driveline lash, a bit of driveline movement. It's not terrible, of course, but it's there. It's clunky, mechanical, and it's most noticeable in stop-go situations. It disappears on the open roads, of course, once you really get going. But if your commute involves a lot of traffic stops, then consider this part of the bike's character. Combined with sharp brakes and brilliant suspension, the R12 NineT is also quick through corners and stable as a rock. This would be an excellent weekend blaster or even a sports tourer if you know how to travel light. Because attaching any kind of luggage is going to be a challenge due to the lack of mounting points. For a big 1200, this thing is surprisingly city friendly. Low seat, great balance, and a very predictable throttle. You can confidently take it into tight underground car parks without a worry. It's one of those big bikes that start shrinking as soon as you get moving. The brakes are excellent with plenty of power, great feel, and good progression. Power delivery is strong and smooth. The Boxer engine has a steady, muscular pull with plenty of torque right where you want it. Peak torque comes in at about 6,500 RPM, so very accessible. And there's really no need to rev this bike hard to get going. It'll cruise smoothly in high gears at low speeds, no surging, no sputtering, just calm and steady progress. And out on the expressway, it just glides along effortlessly. At 70 km/h in top gear, the engine is ticking over lazily at about 2,300 RPM. Go up to 80 and you're now at about 2,700 RPM. And at 90 it's just a bit over 3,000 RPM. It's a wonderfully tractable, comfortable, low revving engine for easy motoring. And yet twist the throttle and it responds instantly. No need for downshifts. I really do like that ability to roll along smoothly in high gear at low revs. It's one of those real-world performance qualities that make a bike genuinely easy to live with. Because the real question with many high-performance bikes though is this: am I going to struggle to keep it at or below the speed limit in top gear? If a bike fails this particular test, it really doesn't matter how well it performs elsewhere. When it comes to technology, the R12 NineT is well equipped but not overloaded. And that's a good thing. You get riding modes, cornering ABS, cornering traction control, cruise control, and bidirectional quick shifter. But there's a small catch. Cruise control and the quick shifter are optional extras. Of course, the good news is if you've never used them before, you won't miss them and you won't need them. The bad news though, if you can't live without them, an already expensive bike gets even pricier. And for all that money, you do get a 5-year warranty and free servicing up to 30,000 kilometers. This helps slightly. If I have to complain about something, and this is really a case of complaining for the sake of complaining, the riding posture feels a bit too purposeful for daily commuting. The R12 NineT has a cruiser stablemate, the R12. That bike offers a more relaxed riding position, but it also doesn't feel nearly as agile or confidence-inspiring. And if I had to pick one, I'd still pick the R12 NineT, and then probably play around with bar risers to maybe calm the ergonomics a little. Overall, I do like this bike and I absolutely love this engine. It's versatile, engaging, and full of soul, and it's still air-cooled, which is saying something in 2025. Every ride feels special, and I'm genuinely glad BMW kept this engine alive instead of shelving it for emissions or efficiency. This is a peach of a motor, one of the most characterful engines still in production. So yes, the R12 NineT makes a very, very nice commuter, if you can afford it. And it's a shame that only a fortunate few, or the very determined, will get to experience it. So the good news is that this engine is still available in 2025. The bad news is that it's still attached to a bike that costs over $60,000. But then again, nobody said premium commuting was supposed to make sense or come cheap.